Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm working on the GTO and I finally have the injectors. So I brought 5 gallons of 91. I also brought a coupler so I can put a mass airflow sensor on it. It's just a 45-degree coupler, but the car is showing it is out of fuel, but it sat for 4 to 5 years. So the issue with it sitting so long and it being out of fuel or showing out of fuel in the gas gauge is a very scary situation, because usually bad gas eats a float on the sending unit. Then it shows empty, but it has a full tank of bad fuel. So I'm gonna throw the 5 gallons of 91 and hopefully I don't waste it, because if you mix it with bad fuel, it's pretty much worthless. So let's throw the fuel in there, throw the injectors in, throw a mass airflow sensor on here, and then get her fired up. I also brought the cable to tune this on HP tuners. Since I don't have a Holley Terminator X for it yet, we can get this tuned and set up for the camshaft for now. Then later on, I'll probably end up throwing a Holley Terminator X in here, and we'll probably end up putting a different transmission. I have been looking into, like, they have like the 6Ls, or I think they have like an 8L version, so an 8-speed, which would be really nice. And I think Holley is about to start controlling the 8-speed. So let's get this all buttoned up and actually hear a run on fuel instead of starting fluid. Electric fans have finally come. So I had to get used electric fans from a junkyard, and unfortunately nobody makes aftermarket ones, and you can't get new ones from the dealership anymore. So use one, hopefully it works. We'll put that in the car. And it's kind of weird. I wanted to get an aftermarket aluminum radiator, but there's no options other than Mishimoto. And Mishimotos are complete garbage. So I didn't want to have to go get a Mishimoto, have a bunch of issues, have cooling issues, or have it leaking, etc. And then the same thing with the fans. There's no support for those. It's just crazy, because you think this platform would kind of be like a Camaro or a Firebird, where there's plenty of radiator options and plenty of fan options. But unfortunately, that's not true with these, unless there's just something that I was missing. I searched for hours on end online and couldn't find anything. And it's just really hard to find parts for this car. So we have the engine. I need to get that fan mounted in there. Then I need to get the steam vents all hooked up. I got a 90-degree bend, or a silicone coupler, so that I could get the intake over here with the mass airflow sensor. Another thing I couldn't find was a power steering reservoir. So I'm just going to go down in the yard, find a power steering reservoir. It'll work for now until I could either find a factory one, or I could just delete the power steering eventually and then just run a manual rack and electric. But let's get the serpentine belt on, all this stuff connected. I also brought some exhaust tubing, so I have 3-inch tube, so I'll get from the headers into the X pipe, and then I'll figure out if I'm just gonna order an exhaust or what I'm gonna do, because I need to figure that out, because this thing is really, really loud, and I do want it to have an exhaust, but I don't know, I want some mufflers on it, but I don't know if I want to make the whole exhaust. I would rather just buy an exhaust. So let's get to work, get this thing pretty much buttoned up and get it full of coolant and all that stuff. I also need to get a oil fill cap. So I just have this to kind of seal it for now. Now that I have the engine full of coolant, I finally added that extra oxygen sensor. I had to order one, and then I also, when I picked that up, I got a tranny filter and pan gasket and tranny fluid. So now she is 100% good to go on the transmission. What I'm gonna do now is make some sort of exhaust, because the oxygen sensors are pretty close to the end of these pipes. I wanna get an exhaust for this thing. I really don't wanna have to make my own exhaust, but for the time being, what I'm gonna do is just weld some V-bands to some 45s, have them come out a bit, and then just go kind of to the center. And pretty much that's about it. I thought I was gonna be able to tie it into an X pipe that I have, or the X pipe that was on this car, but this is all 3-inch, and that X pipe is reduced down. That was just all weird welded stuff together. Here's a 3-inch V-band clamp. You can see how much smaller this pipe is. So unfortunately, I wanted to use this X pipe, but I'm not gonna be able to. I wanted to use these mufflers, but I'm not gonna be able to. What I'm gonna do, since she's full of fluids, has a little bit of exhaust off of the headers, and I finally have some sort of makeshift power steering reservoir. This is off of a Toyota. For some reason, it's impossible to find parts for this car, so I can't find a factory power steering reservoir. There was a Junkyard that had one, but they wouldn't sell the bracket that was part of the power steering reservoir with it. So I ended up just, finding this in the yard. I plan on eventually deleting the power steering, having a manual rack, and then going to electric power steering. But it kind of depends on how far I want to go with this car. If I end up turboing it, that's definitely going to happen, because I'm going to drop the engine back out of it and just kind of go crazy with it. But since it is a low mile GTO, I have like this other idea. I could just, get a bunch of factory stuff, leave the cam in here, leave it, maybe put nitrous on it, maybe make, around 600 horsepower, maybe like 550 to 600, and get some better wheels. These wheels are awful. And then just repaint her, put new windshield in there, and just make a really nice GTO. But we'll see what happens. That's probably not what's gonna happen, because I don't do that with anything. But let's fire her up for the first time with fluids, and she's probably gonna be mad because the mass airflow sensor is still not on there and it doesn't have a tune. But let's fire her up and see how she sounds. Oh man, she sounds great. Super excited. She sounds really, really good. Well, until she went into, because it's not tuned, it doesn't have a mass airflow sensor on it right now. I need to get in there and delete all that stuff so it stops going into limp mode, and has a larger cam. It's probably like, what's going on? But man, she sounds good. I can't wait to have full exhaust on this thing. So right now I just have those little ends, or those 45-degree ends that I welded on to the V-bands, just so I had something on there. I'm not exactly sure how I'm gonna go. There's two ways I could build this exhaust. I really wanted to get like an aftermarket exhaust, but since I'm most likely gonna turbo this. And most likely the outlet on the turbo is gonna be like 3 or 4 inches. So I could go into, pretty much go headers into like a 3-inch pipe that goes straight back, or I could go headers into a 4-inch pipe that goes and then splits off into 3-inch and then still dual exit exhaust. But I'm still not sure how I'm going to do it. I'm probably going to leave it super loud like this for a little bit. It's probably going to get annoying after a while. It sounds crazy loud right now, but I'm really happy. I mean, unfortunately, you know, I'm not able to find a lot of the factory parts for some reason. It just is really, really weird that it's so difficult to find these parts. So there's a few things that I need, which I'm probably going to have to get aftermarket stuff, but even aftermarket stuff is hard to find. The rear valence on the rear bumper is missing. There's a company that makes there's a company that's gonna make a carbon fiber diffuser that looks really good, but they said they have no, they have no production date, or they don't know when it's gonna be done. So unfortunately, I would buy that right away. Same thing with exhaust. I've been looking at exhaust. I was maybe gonna buy a MagnaFlow for it, but if I do turbo, then it's going to all go into a single and then have to be split anyway. So I'd have to redo the whole exhaust. But I'm still not 100%. So we'll see what happens and just kind of go from there. But there are, I need the driver door panel. It's a little messed up. I'll start worrying about cleaning the interior after it runs and drives. But in the next video, be able to get this thing tuned, or me and my friend Chris will probably tune it. Hopefully it doesn't blow up, and then get this thing to do a nasty burnout, because these tires are done. But both sets, they're just old. It's like brand new tires. They're just dry rotted because they sat so long. So we're just gonna send them off to tire heaven. So let's wrap this video up. In the next video, we'll be tuning this thing, getting these tires, and then I'll have to figure out what wheels and tires I'm gonna put on this thing, because I don't need tires for it. So I'm gonna end the video here. If you like these videos, make sure to click the subscribe button, throw a thumbs up, throw a comment below. As always, see you guys next time.